Sarah's eyes widened in disbelief as the image on her screen flickered into focus. There, standing in her office doorway, was Marcus, her trusted confidant, her mentor from day one. But behind his calm smile, she saw something else. A glint in his eyes, cold and calculating, holding a gun aimed directly at her. Her mind spun. This just couldn't be. Marcus, the man who had always believed in her, who had supported her rise, was now a threat. Her pulse pounded like thunder, her thoughts racing as she tried to process what this meant. "Marcus," she managed, voice trembling. What is this? Why?" He stepped closer, slowly, like a predator closing in. "You don't understand," he said softly, voice smooth but sinister. "We're not as different as you think. All those years, I played the loyal friend. I helped you climb. But you've gone too far." Sarah backed away instinctively, clutching the edge of her desk, her eyes darting around for an escape. Her mind flooded with memories, how he'd always seemed supportive, how he'd helped her navigate the treacherous waters of corporate politics, how he had always been flawless in her eyes. But now, she saw through the mask, a mask hiding cold ambition and manipulation. "You're not who I thought you were," she whispered desperately. "Why, Marcus? Why turn against me?" A cruel smile curled across Marcus's face. "Because I've seen the real prize all along. You're just like Shaw and those corrupt fools. You're blind to the fact that this game isn't about justice, it's about power. And I'm taking what's mine." Before Sarah could react, Marcus fired a shot. The bullet whizzed past her, crashing into the wall behind her. Time seemed to freeze, the room filled with the deafening sound of her own heartbeat. She dove behind her desk just as another shot rang out. The air felt thick with danger, a deadly chess match she never signed up for. Her mind scrambled for a plan, fight or flight. Her eyes caught the small pistol tucked inside her desk drawer. She wasn't a fighter, but she was alive, and she knew she had to act fast. With trembling hands, she grabbed the gun and poked her head out just as Marcus advanced. "Hands where I can see them," she demanded with trembling bravery, pointing the weapon at him. His eyes flickered with cold amusement, but he raised both hands slowly. "Only way this ends is if you join me, Sarah." "We can run the game together. You're smarter than this. Don't throw it all away." In that moment, everything changed. The sudden loud wail of sirens broke through the chaos, police coming in response to the earlier warning, and Marcus's facade cracked. His eyes darted to the door, then to her gun. Realizing his time was up, he fumbled to get his own weapon back. But Sarah was faster. She pulled the trigger, firing a single shot. Marcus collapsed to the floor, clutching his shoulder, bleeding but still alive. The police burst into the room, guns trained, and tackled him before he could retaliate. As the officers cuffed Marcus, Sarah stood trembling, gasping for breath. Her mind was a whirlwind of fear, betrayal, and relief. The man she trusted, the man she had fought beside, was now a suspect for conspiracy and attempted murder. The evidence he had held against her, the secret plans, that he'd been plotting her downfall from the start. The company's secret was out, finally. Evelyn's death, Shaw's corruption, Marcus's betrayal, all connected in this tangled web of deception. Sarah had become the unwitting hero who had stumbled into darkness and fought her way out. In the weeks that followed, the truth unraveled faster than anyone could imagine. Shaw's empire crumbled under the weight of scandal and legal indictments. Evelyn's evidence had been key, and Sarah's unwavering resilience proved her innocence. Her loyalty to justice was unbreakable. Yet, as the dust settled and Sarah was celebrated publicly, dark questions lingered. How far had Marcus gone? What was his true motive? Was he acting alone? Or was there someone else pulling the strings behind the scenes? And when Sarah entered her new office, now the vice president of Henderson and Company, she noticed a small, unmarked envelope on her desk. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single note, written in an elegant script. "This is just the beginning. The truth always has more layers, and the real game has yet to be played." Her pulse quickened as she looked around her pristine office. Nothing seemed out of place, yet. Was this only the first piece of a larger puzzle? Was Marcus merely a pawn, or was he part of something? Sarah's fingers trembled as she unfolded the small, unassuming note. The words shimmered ominously in the dim light of her office. "This is just the beginning. The truth always has more layers, and the real game has yet to be played." Asterisk. The message sent a ripple of tension through her veins. Who had left it? Was it Marcus, the betrayed traitor lying in a cell, or someone else, someone in the shadows pulling strings even bigger than she had imagined? Her mind raced with possibilities. Whoever it was, they knew her struggle, and most terrifyingly, they knew her vulnerabilities. Her eyes darted to her laptop. She had to find out more. She clicked on her encrypted files, searching for hidden clues, but everything seemed standard, routine. It was as if the note itself was trying to taunt her, playing a game of cat and mouse, daring her to dig deeper. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, a message notification blinking in the corner of her screen. "You think the battle's over? Guess again. Trust no one. The real enemies are still lurking in the shadows." And then a new image appeared, jarring and direct. It was not from Marcus. It wasn't from the police. It was from an unknown number, showing a black and white photo of her own face, taken from a hidden camera in her office. Sarah's breath hitched. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might burst. How long had this been going on? Who had been watching her? And most chilling of all, who had sent this image? She instinctively looked around her office. Every corner felt suspiciously empty, but her instincts screamed that her greatest enemy was someone she trusted, someone always close. Her mind flashed back to Marcus, the betrayal, and now, this new threat. She realized, slowly and painfully, that her victory was only a fragment of a larger, darker game, a game where the rules had been rewritten. She had to act fast. Someone, somewhere, knew her secrets, and they were deadly. Did Marcus truly act alone? Had he been part of something bigger all along? Or was he just a pawn, another piece in a sinister chess match waiting to be unveiled? The clock continued ticking as she sat frozen. Her thoughts swirled. Should she go to the police? Should she confront Marcus? Or perhaps find the person behind the note? Threatening her, watching her every move like a predator hunting its prey. But just as she reached to call her trusted confidant, the room suddenly darkened. The lights flickered, then shut off altogether. Silence. A deep, unsettling silence that swallowed her in shadows. And then, a voice low and cold echoed through her office speaker system. "Sarah, you've come far, but the real test is only beginning." A deep, distorted voice. Her blood ran cold. She recognized it. It was the voice of someone she thought she'd taken down months ago, Shaw's closest confidant, the man who'd helped orchestrate Evelyn's murder and countless other secrets. She stared at the speaker, trembling, realizing that Shaw had more tricks hidden up his sleeve. Her own life had been a game of chess. Her opponent was no longer Marcus, nor Shaw alone. It was someone far more dangerous, someone who knew her, had watched her, and now was calling her out for a final, deadly showdown. She clenched her fists, feeling her pulse quicken as the room's shadows lengthened. Her instincts screamed one thing, run, but her mind shouted another, fight. Her story, her fight for justice, was only just beginning. And as she looked at the flickering screen, she knew one thing for sure. The truth always comes with a cost, and sometimes The cost could be her life. The dark voice whispered a chilling question. "Are you ready to face the real game, Sarah?" In that moment, she realized the greatest battle was still ahead, one that would challenge everything she believed. And she understood. This was her final test. She took a trembling breath, ready to confront her destiny, knowing full well that in the shadows of power, the real monsters awaited. Sarah's hands trembled as she stared at the voice-activated speaker system, her mind racing through every possible threat, every possible outcome. She knew this moment, probably the most dangerous of her life, would decide everything. The shadows in her office seemed to tighten around her, the only light coming from the flickering screen that still showed Shaw's twisted voice. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding, clutching the small pistol she'd kept hidden in her desk drawer. The voice still echoed in her ears, but she forced herself to steady her nerves. She wasn't going to let her fear control her anymore. This was her fight, her moment to bring everything into the light. "You think you've won," she said, her voice steel despite the trembling in her hands. "You think I'm just another pawn in your game. But I've seen the truth and I've fought to get here. You're not the only one with secrets." Suddenly, the room's lights flickered back on, revealing a figure standing across from her, shadows behind him casting a dark silhouette. It was Marcus, alive, bloodied from his injuries, but alive. He looked at her with a mixture of relief and determination. "Sarah, I'm sorry I betrayed you. I was part of the whole thing, the corruption, Shaw's plans. But I've had my own awakening. I've seen the truth, and I want to help you finish what we started. We can take them down together." Sarah's eyes widened in shock. Her mind scrambled. Had she been wrong about him? Or was he genuinely seeking redemption? Before she could respond, footsteps thundered down the hallway, Shaw's security, breaking into her office like a pack of wolves. "I knew you'd try something," Shaw's voice boomed on the speaker system. "You think you can outsmart me? You've only scratched the surface of my empire. You know too much now, Sarah. You're a threat, just like Evelyn was." In the blink of an eye, Shaw's men burst into the room, guns drawn, converging on her and Marcus. But Sarah, with her newfound courage and clarity, threw herself into the fight. She fired her pistol, missing, but stunning one of Shaw's guards long enough for Marcus to grapple with another. In the chaos, Sarah grabbed a nearby paperweight and swung it at her assailant, knocking him out cold. In that brutal scuffle, Sarah saw an opening. She sprinted across the room, grabbing her phone and calling the police, spilling every detail she knew about Shaw's empire, the corruption, the kidnapping, Evelyn's death. The sound of sirens drew closer and the guards hesitated, uncertain whether to risk further violence or flee. Finally, the door burst open, more police officers flooding in, swiftly overpowering Shaw's men. Shaw himself, betrayed and furious, was handcuffed and pushed to the ground, shouting curses and threats. The room was overwhelming with flashes from cameras, blinking lights, and chaos. Sarah stood amidst the wreckage, wounded but victorious. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment of underestimation had led her here. She had gone from the underestimated intern to the woman who dismantled a corrupt empire, and in doing so, she became a symbol of resilience and justice. Months later, Sarah sat in her office, now officially the vice president of Henderson and Company. Her name was finally clean, her future undeniable. The story of her rise, the girl who was ignored and underestimated, had turned into a legend. Looking out the window at the city skyline, she reflected on her journey. Sometimes the greatest warriors are born in darkness, forged by trials and betrayal. The road was long, but her purpose was clear. She would never let power corrupt her again, and she would forever use her voice to fight for truth and justice. Because she knew one thing for sure. The underdog, no matter how underestimated, has the power to change the world. if they never give up. And as she smiled, knowing her fight was finally over, she whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning. Subscribe to our channel for more videos."